If you are a real estate agent and you are relying on anything other than data, you are going to be not only misinformed, but misled. If you are relying on news media, interest rates, and what banks are saying to help you understand and interpret the market, not only will you be on an emotional roller coaster, you will be in a place where you're not even interpreting the data. So your whole assessment of the field will be off, which impacts the way you do business. Today, we're going to talk about how real data provides clarity, confidence, and control. And I'm going to show you exactly how to use this data to run your business effectively so that you can make the lifestyle and create the lifestyle that you want through real estate. Tune into this video. I am the CEO of real estate because I help realtors build a business that funds, not runs their life. As you've seen in the title, we're going to talk about why listening to the news is not a strategy for your business. And I know a lot of realtors think, hey, I'm watching the news so I can be aware of what's going on. But this is what I'm telling you, the news will mislead you. It is not an information source as you think. I want you to understand the news media is an outlet. They get paid for clicks, not facts. You have to be able to delineate between what's real and what's not. And a lot of the things that we see in the news is really smoke and mirrors. You have to understand that a lot of the news outlets are steeped and based in fear. That fear then trickles down to realtors, and then that's what you communicate to your clients. This is one of the reasons why a lot of times, and especially right now, we're telling our clients that it's not a good time to sell. It is always a good time to have real estate. Now, here's the question. You only sell real estate when you can make a profit. The purpose of real estate is profit. So if it's not a time to make profit, it's a hold time. But while you're holding, you're also building equity. So there is no scarcity mindset in that. There is no fear in that. But if you watch the news will tell you real estate is taking a dip. The market is about to crash. And what do you think you're saying to your clients when you hear that? When they come to you and said, hey, my interest rate is 6%, what are you doing? You're not reframing it for them because you've accepted what the news media said, the news outlet said as truth instead of having your own data and doing your own research. This is one of the reasons that I coach agents to run a business, because when you run a business, you start tracking your own metrics, and your metrics will tell you a more truer and complete story than the news outlets will ever tell you. We have to get away from allowing people to interpret the market for us when our job, because we have access to all the data that ourselves, our job is to take that data, study it, and make our own interpretation of the market. So I have to start this video by making sure you understand that data is the antidote to fear. The more you know, the more settled you can be in your emotions. And the more settled you can be in your emotions, the better you can think. The better you think, the better you can advise your clients. Here's what you have to understand. Data doesn't lie. Jay-Z said it best. He said, men lie, women lie, numbers don't. Data doesn't lie. You want to know what does lie, though? Your feelings. When you're feeling a type of way, you can't always trust your feelings. Data grounds you in reality, and it makes sure that you're not reactive to the market. I determine the market, to be honest with you. We really, as realtors, determine the market. And that's why it is imperative that we learn how to run a business, because the things that we're doing on the back end are really driving the market on the front end. Let me give you an example of how I interpret that. In my business, I don't take listings for less than 6%. Why? I want to stabilize the economy of the real estate industry. So I make sure that every listing I put in there, it's always 3%. Why? That's my contribution to the industry. But if every realtor gets scared and they feel like they can't make money, then they're going to come at 1.5%, 2%, 3%, sometimes, and then sometimes no percent. Why? Because they are allowing the fear and what they've heard in the news that people don't want to pay commission to drive how they do business. We don't do business like that. We do business based on foundational values that are important to us. When you start to really look at data, it gives you control, and it gives you not only control over your emotions, but it makes you less of a commodity. See, what makes me valuable is how I interpret the market. And I'm telling you, a lot of people they don't even study the data that I study. So when I'm in front of people, I'm able to communicate with them at a higher level, and I'm able to bring them up emotionally to a reality so they can make an informed decision as a buyer, seller, or investor. Why? Because my business runs on data. I study the market of Florida. I know how many days on market it takes to sell. I know how much inventory we have at the beginning of every month. I know the list of sales price ratios in the area that I sell. Why? Because when I'm talking to people and I say we need to price it at this, I'm not going to say because the market is crashing. I'm saying I'm telling clients now that your house is going to be in the market for 60 to 90 days. Why? Because that's what the data tells me. I don't care how you feel. I have a lot of clients that say I want to sell it quickly. Ma'am, here's what the data shows. When I sit down with you, I'm going over facts. Why? It takes my emotions out of it, takes your emotions out of it, and we can have an intelligent conversation and move forward in business. As realtors, we have to make sure that data is our best friend. You should have time aside every day, and it doesn't have to be a long time, maybe 15 to 20 minutes where you're interpreting the market so you know how to advise your clients. This is a step that many realtors miss, but now you are informed and you're going to do something different. Okay, so at this point, you're probably saying, okay, Cheese, that I understand. I get it. I hear what you're saying. It makes sense. How do I interpret this? I'm going to give you 6 things that you need to pay attention to. And this is going to help give you an overview of the market so you can start to interpret it to your client. Number one, how much inventory is on the market? Months of inventory is what it's called. Number one, months of inventory. This will help you interpret supply and demand. That's the first law of sales. Wherever there's a supply and demand, we have to pay attention to it because they feed into each other. So if you're not able, and you can do this by going onto your local MLS, it'll tell you how much inventory. That's going to determine whether you're in a buyer's market or a seller's market. For me, that's going to tell me who I need to be lead generating for. Because when I am in a seller's market, I am actually lead generating for sellers. Why? Because they're going to sell faster, which means I can get to my profit faster. If we are in a buyer's market, I'm going to lead generate for buyers. I have experience in both areas, but the market is going to determine which I'm going to be looking for. Why? Because supply and demand is going to drive the need for buyers or sellers. I have to know this. Number 2, days on market. This helps with buyer demand and pricing accuracy. I cannot price a house unless I know that the in the general area where the house is, how many days our house is sitting on the market. Right now in Tampa, houses are sitting on the market from anywhere from 90 to 120 days. What does that tell me? I've got to be aggressive in my pricing. I, at this moment right here, right now, will not take your listing if you don't take my pricing recommendations. Why? The data shows me that if I price it high, it's already going to sit whether it's priced right or not. If I price it high, oh my God, we're going to be on market 6 to 8 months. I don't want to waste your time. I don't want to waste my resources. So here's the thing. Here's my recommendation. I have a little wiggle room because I want to make sure that I hear my clients, but I want my clients to understand that the market determines the price. The market determines how quick and fast we sell, not you and what you want. See, data takes you out of your feelings. All right. Number 3, list to sales price ratio. This helps you have a pricing strategy plan and performance action, right? So here's what I mean by list to sales price ratio. If I'm in a neighborhood and this is what I'm studying before I go list the house or meet with the client, this is what I'm studying. If every house in that neighborhood started at 5 and then at 30 days they reduced to 490, then at 60 days they reduced to 480, then at 90 days, because I said they're sitting, they reduced to 470, I'm starting at 470. Well, let's say they stopped at 470 and that's when they sold, I'm starting at 470. Why? The data shows me that if I go higher, I'm just going to be doing a bunch of price reductions. Let's get that out of the way. Here's what that means. I've got to be able to sit down. This is what interpreting the data does for your business. I've got to be able to sit down with a seller and help them understand, even though you may think your house is worth 500, we have to price it at this because this is what the market is driving. Also, your house has to go through an appraisal. If all of the houses in your area started at 5, reduced to 470, and they actually closed at, let's say, 470-ish, then that means the appraiser is going to use these numbers to run comps, which means even if we get somebody to bid 500, the appraisal is going to come up short. We're going to end up renegotiating. This is why I'm saying when it comes to this data, I'm all over it. I spend most of my time interpreting data. Why? I can have conversations a lot easier. I can have persuasive conversations with clients and get them to see reason versus feelings. So you want to make sure you are checking for that. Number 3, list the sales price ratio. Here's number 4, new listing versus pending sales. This determines market movement. How the market is moving matters because if I refused to take a listing last week because that nothing in that subdivision has sold for 6 months. They have had 15 new listings come on every month with no pending sales. I would be setting you up for failure and myself up for failure. Here's what I told him. Let's continue to watch the market and check in every 2 weeks. When we see movement, market movement, that will let us know that buyer confidence has increased or supply and demand has changed. But now we can start to enter the market and enter into this competition with these other houses. But right now, you got 82 listings in that community. Those are all your competition. I don't want to compete in that way. All right. So new listings versus pending sales. Number 5, interest rates versus buyer activity. This is a reality check on affordability versus perception. The reality is interest rates determine how much a buyer can buy on a house. If they have an interest rate of 4%, they can buy more, meaning their pre-approval might be 550. But if that same person has an interest rate of 6 to 7%, then that 550 now has become 450. Why is that important? Because if I'm trying to help sell your house, I need to know all of this because it's going to affect the affordability of your home. Why does that matter to a seller? Because if your home is not priced in a way that takes all of this into account, it will sit even longer. The longer you sit on market, you're actually losing money. Number 6, showings per listing. This shows buyer behavior and urgency. Sometimes you can find this on the MLS, but a lot of times I will call and ask agents. So I'll look at a closed sale in an area and I will make a phone call to that agent. Hey, I noticed you were on the market 42 days. How many showings did you have? I know you had 2 price reductions. Did you have more showings after the price reduction? Why? I'm trying to determine buyer behavior so I can put my seller in the best position to win. And if I'm working with a buyer, this helps me know how much leverage I have to advocate for you in terms of negotiation to get sellers concessions and rate buy downs and things of that nature. This is why it is important not to pay attention to the news, because the news is not going to give you this data. You have to go interpret this to yourself. But the second you do this, you'll be able to have better conversations with your clients. And this is why it is important for you to run a data-driven business, for you to be the CEO of your business, because if not, you're just running on emotional fumes. Here's something else to consider. When you have this data, you become an asset to your client. You become a trusted advisor, and you use this data to serve your clients first, grow your business second. You can have much better conversations with buyers and sellers when you have data. Data is used for conversion. When you learn the local market, you create market snapshots for your client and you can help them understand the market. So now you become their trusted advisor. They begin to trust you. Why? Because you've done your due diligence. When you start to understand trends as well, and when I say trends, that's taking this data and studying it over a long period of time. This is what I'm saying about people not running their business like a CEO. The average realtor is not doing this. They're showing up hoping somebody says yes, hoping that they hit the right number. No, you have a target that you need to have a bullseye on, and I need to be very meticulous about how I hit that. Helping to interpret data for clients changes the game. I'm not a door opener. This is why I tell people I work with buyers and I don't open doors. Why? It's not the highest and best use of my time. You would want me to be in the office, in the lab is what I call it, studying market trends. Why? Because that's the data that's going to help me empower you to position you to win in this market. And here's the thing, losing is not an option. So if winning is the only option, let's get into this data, baby. Okay, so now that you have all this information, I know you're probably like, what do I do with it? I want you to just lean in to start tracking this information. I'm going to give you a free marketing data tracking template. What I want you to do is take an address, an area that you're trying to farm or break into, take addresses from that area and put this into a data format. Data tells a story. If you want to stop feeling like the market is out of your control, like business is out of your control, and start feeling like the authority your clients need and desire and deserve, if I'm being honest, they deserve somebody that does their due diligence. Download this tracker. But let me be honest with you, this is a fraction of the things that I offer to my coaching clients. You need help to interpret data. Sometimes, even with the data that I have to sit down with somebody and go back and forth and really interpret it to understand it. So if you're looking to dominate in this market, I suggest you get a coach that studies market data, that you can start to use that data to empower your clients. I thank you for tuning into this video. Make sure you are subscribed to our email list. That link is going to be here as well. And when you do that, you're going to get access to all the resources that we have. And I'm really excited that you've taken the time to watch this video from start to finish. Share it with another realtor. Don't hoard information. We share data as realtors. All right. Have a good day.